Phelps, Bukowski. B-Cop says he located a green Kaiser Fraser from the hot sheet. Address is 6 West 2nd Street. Get over there and see what you can find out. Go on. Sorry to inconvenience you.
We're on it, Captain. I swear the more bent cars we bring in, the longer the hot sheet gets.
It pays the rent, though. Keeps Mrs. Phelps in the manner to which she's accustomed.
I'm not sure she'd agree with you.
Passionate, romantic type like you, Cole? I don't believe a word of it.
As Cole and Bukowski get into the car, they talk about the real-world Black Dahlia case, one of the most notorious murders in the history of Los Angeles, and a crime that remains unsolved even today.
They're calling her the Dahlia now. Wonder what Veronica Lake makes of that one.
What a case. You hear whether they're making any progress?
Captain Donnelly seems to think they have it all wrapped up. Brown and Green are sweating this Manley character. I heard it'll be in front of a grand jury by next week.
Poor thing. Terrible enough being murdered like that without having to screwed all over the front.
The victim in the Black Dahlia case was a woman by the name of Elizabeth Short. She's the one Cole referred to as a poor thing. This conversation must take place soon after the media began to call it the Black Dahlia case. They called it the Dahlia case because the case was reminiscent of the recently released film noir crime film named The Blue Dahlia, starring Veronica Lake. Instead of Blue Dahlia, they called the case the Black Dahlia case because the victim's hair was black. And Manley, the man Bukowski said was being questioned, was one of the prime suspects of the murder of Elizabeth Short. But he was ultimately released due to having a strong alibi and passing 2 lie detector tests. This conversation in the car provides important foreshadowing concerning future cases. We arrive at the location where the stolen car was spotted at 16 minutes after noon.
That's the car, Cole. Just pulling out of the drive. Get him. Remember, we need him healthy enough to answer questions.
The suspect takes off in his stolen car, and the chase begins.
1247, Detective Phelps, requesting immediate backup in pursuit of a stolen green Kaiser Fraser from 6 West 2nd Street.
Enough games, Phelps. Take this guy out. Lay into his wheel arches. Come on.
I hate driving.
All right. Maybe I was a couple miles over the speed limit.
Get bracelets on him, Phelps. I'll call it in.
Hopping out, we can confront the reckless driver.
Put your hands where I can see them. Why did you run from us?
I saw a big car in my rearview mirror with 2 tough guys bearing down on me. What would you do?
What's your name?
Cliff Harrison.
You're under arrest.
For what? What are you talking about?
Nice try. I'm talking about the car being stolen.
You're out of your mind. I bought the car, and I've got the paperwork to prove it.
Looks like we'll have some questions for the people at Coombs Automotive.
We see an apparently legitimate customer receipt from Coombs Automotive. It even bears the company's stamp. We see that Cliff Harrison here bought the car on January 11th of this very year, and after reading some legal boilerplate, we see that the make and model all line up. A Kaiser Fraser, Manhattan type, fully equipped with a radio and lighter, sold for $2,450.95. Well, if he has this car legally, we'll have to figure out exactly how a car dealership was able to sell a stolen car to this guy. But before we head on over to Coombs Automotive, we can ask Cliff here a few questions.
You purchased this car from Coombs Automotive Company?
Yeah, that's right.
Cliff is a little confused, agitated, but this confusion and agitation appears to be earnest. He doesn't fidget any more than any other person would. He stands up straight, arms at his side, and he meets eyes with Cole. This man had no idea he was driving a stolen car. He's telling the truth.
And the ownership papers?
From the same place.
With incredulity, he hands us the ownership pink slip.
If this is a forgery, it's top-notch. This will need to be traced.
Strange that he would have this on hand. It says right on it to not carry it in the vehicle, but nonetheless, Cliff has a legitimate certificate of ownership. Same owner, same address, same registration number, same make and model, and even the same engine number. Turning it over, we find the section of the form that would be filled out if it were to be sold to someone else. Because this is blank, it tells us that Cliff here was the last person to purchase it and is the owner of the vehicle. Unless it's a very convincing forgery. But if Cliff didn't realize he was driving a stolen car, why did he flee from us?
You have a criminal record, Mr. Harrison?
No, nothing like that.
And suddenly he's a little bit uneasy and blinky. What is this, Morse code? Blank, blank, blank. Blank, 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 blank. Wow. He shifts his weight from foot to foot every now and then he gulps. When you can actually see his eyes, they're darting left and right. Asking about his criminal past has made him uncomfortable. We don't have any proof that he has a criminal record, but we have every reason to doubt his story.
You better give us something, Cliff, or we're gonna make this hard on you.
I didn't steal the car. I ran because I've got some wacky backy in the glove compartment.
How much, Cliff?
1 reefer.
We'll let it slide. You're in enough trouble.
Looks like 1 reefer isn't enough to get you in trouble in 1947, so we can move on to asking him about how he went about purchasing his car.
Who did you deal with at Coombs Automotive?
The owner, Richard Coombs.
Alright, he's still blinking, but not nearly as much as last time. He just must be a blinky sort of person, and he blinks on hyper speed when he's hiding the truth. But despite his blinking, his stance has returned to normal. He shifts his weight infrequently, and he meets eyes with Cole Phelps. He is telling the truth.
And he made out the bill of sale personally?
Of course he did. He kept a facsimile for his records. Check with him.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, Harrison. Until we do, you're going downtown.
You gotta be kidding me. I'm getting arrested for buying a goddamn car?
If everything is legit, Harrison, you'll be out soon. Until then, if I were you, I'd keep my mouth shut.
Bag his possessions as evidence and have him arraigned for grand theft auto.
Right, Detective.
Do you know who my father is?
We need to get to Coombs Auto and check out Harrison's story.
You know what? I think he's telling the truth.
Some of the most convincing people you will ever listen to are born liars. Usually they're called politicians.
We arrive at Coombs Automotive at 3:34 p.m. And as soon as they arrive, Cole is immediately spotted by Richard Coombs, the owner and namesake of Coombs Automotive.
Not another step. I have got a Buick Century sedan that would be absolutely perfect for you.
Detective Phelps, LAPD, are you the owner?
That's right. Richard Coombs at your service. You looking to trade in a black and white, boys?
Mr. Coombs, we're investigating an auto theft. A man by the name of Cliff Harrison claims he bought the car here.
Well, some people would say that my cars are a steal. That's a joke, son.
Very amusing, Mr. Coombs.
I remember Harrison. It was a green two-tone Kaiser Frazer, if I remember rightly.
Do you have the bill of sale?
It's in my office. Walk this way.
Are you kidding me?
That's a joke too, son.
Phelps, you mind if I shoot this guy? He's getting on my nerves.
Well, while Combs' humor is lost on both Bukowski and Cole, we can head inside to examine the bill of sale.
Here it is. Got the original pink slip there too.
We'll start with the pink slip.
Gene Archer, 146 North Fremont Avenue.
So the previous owner of the car that Cliff eventually bought was a woman named Jean Archer. Like the last one, this one looks legitimate. Nothing scratched out, nothing faint, no indications that this is some sort of facsimile, and all of the information about the vehicle is the same, from registration number to engine number to make and model. Flipping it over, we can see the series of events that brought this car into Cliff's hands. The woman, Jay Archer, came into the shop to sell the car to the dealership, while the car had 1,496 miles on its odometer. Coombs approved the sale, even stamped it with his little stamp, and the car then became the property of Coombs Automotive. We already know that he then sold it to Cliff. If both of these pink slips are genuine, the problem may be with the company that printed these pink slips, and we'll learn exactly who that is at the very bottom. Printed for the Department of Motor Vehicles by the Markey Printing Company, Los Angeles, California. Looks like we now need to call into R&I to get a location of the Markey Printing Company. Next to this is the customer receipt, and we see that it exactly matches the one that Cliff showed us.
Harrison's purchase receipt was legit at least.
So Cliff is in the clear. He did not steal this car. But we have a new name, Jean Archer. Perhaps she stole the car. To find out, we need to ask this guy more about the transaction.
We have a couple of questions.
All right, fellas, shoot.
Can you tell us how you came to buy the car?
Girl just wandered in right off the street.
She just wandered in off the street? Well, I suppose that does happen. And Coombs here isn't giving us any indication that he's lying. He sits here solid as a rock, unmoving, with a fixed gaze. We have every indication here that he's telling the truth.
Nothing unusual about the car.
Not really my usual type of vehicle. The price was certainly right, though. Nice girl, but about as sharp as a bag of wet mice.
Did you pay with check or cash?
A check. She wanted it made out to cash, but I insisted. Man has to watch his cash flow.
What name?
I made it out to Jean Archer on the Bank of Arcadia.
A bag of wet mice. I'm starting to like this guy. Well, now we need to learn more about this Jean Archer.
Can you describe this Jean Archer?
Brunette, maybe 25, 26. Little on the plump side, but not bone ugly.
And look how comfortable he is, leaning back in his chair slightly, one hand on the desk, one hand on his knee. He is comfortable but not recoiling. The right side of his body is extended, inviting dialogue, while the left side of his body is supported, enjoying comfort, which means that he's relaxed, and a man who has something to hide is rarely relaxed. He's so relaxed, in fact, that if we take our time questioning him, he cracks another joke.
You're as thick as a whale sandwich, aren't you, son?
Sharp as a bag of wet mice, thick as a whale sandwich? I want to talk to a guy like this every single day. That would make my life so much better. Anyway, he's telling the truth.
What was your impression of her?
Kind of harried and harassed. In a hurry to go somewhere, but no place to go. You get to know the type.
So we've got a description of the suspect, but there are two problems here we have to resolve. Not only who stole the car, but also who either forged or provided a legitimate pink slip for a stolen car. We need to ask him about Markey Printing.
Do you know anything about the company that prints these pink slips?
Nope. Should I? It isn't exactly my business.
Good point. It's not his business. He probably just buys a box of these things from the company and then fills them out. And again, even though his posture has changed, he's not giving us any indication that he's lying. He's sitting up straight, and though his head and eyes are moving, he's looking between Cole and Bukowski. It's not like he's looking off into the distance or up and to the right. Nope, he's still telling the truth.
It says Markey Printing. You've never heard of them?
Markey. Sure. They do all the government red tape. You'll find the place down on Aliso Street near San Pedro.
And with that, we've got an address for Markey. Now we can ask him more about that check he used to pay Jean Archer.
When exactly did you hand over the check, Mr. Coombs?
Close of play on Friday.
Ah, now we see a man who's lying. He leans back in his chair, twists his body to the left as if he's drawing away from Cole, and crosses his arms to hide his secret from the investigator. And he begins to classically avoid eye contact. He's looking everywhere but at Cole and Bukowski. We don't have any evidence that he's lying, but we doubt that he's telling the whole truth.
Why didn't you pay her cash? You knew the car was dirty.
I had an inkling. When people are in a hurry for money, always pay by check, son. Gives you a couple days to back out.
So he knew that this was a suspicious transaction before he wrote the check. And yet he did so anyway?
This was all above board.
Yes, of course it was.
And now he adopts equally suspicious body language, but body language that is completely different. He's holding his arms in a faux confident pose, but it's his head that gives him away here, bobbing back and forth like a turkey, chin tilted up, as if he's feigning confidence, and wearing a smug "I'm smarter than you" smile. He's clearly pleased with how clever he is, but the evidence of his pleasure betrays the fact that he's not telling the whole truth.
Did this look legitimate to you, Coombs?
I'm in used cars, son, not bearer bonds. In my business, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Now don't come on all high and mighty with me if you want my help.
Thanks for your help, Mr. Coombs. We need to continue the investigation.
Hope you sort out your problem with Mr. Harrison. Go easy on him, son. Boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball. He's built too low. The fastballs fly over his head.
Let me shoot this guy, please. You have a pleasant day, Mr. Coombs.
Well, Harrison might be off the hook, but we can still run an APB on Gene Archer. Get on the horn and call it in.
All right, so we need to issue an all-points bulletin for Gene Archer to see if anyone has seen her, and we need to track down this Markey printing company. We'll start by calling in the APB.
Phelps, 1247.
How can I help, Detective?
Requesting an APB on Gene Archer, age approximately 25, on suspicion of grand theft auto.
I'll relay the information.
Messages for me, please.
A James Velasco is being held at Central Station on suspicion of GTA. Possible link to the Harrison case. They're waiting on you to conduct the interview.
Thank you.
A James Velasco now? Wait, someone stole another car? And it's somehow related to Cliff Harrison's stolen car? Well, let's head that way, but we notice that Gene Archer's address, which we found on that pink slip, is on the way to Central. So while waiting on the results of the APB we put out on her, we'll check in at her home address to see if she's taking visitors. 146 North Fremont Avenue.
With affiliates in Los
Here's a
Angeles,
chicken and egg question for
New
you.
York,
Do you think you have to be an asshole to sell cars? Or that selling cars turns you into an asshole?
You've got it in for everyone today, haven't you?
I've always got it in for car salesmen. Doesn't matter what day it is. And why do they always think they're comedians when they're about as funny as a heart attack?
Maybe the more annoying they are, the quicker you sign on the dotted line, just to get the hell out of there.
We arrive at 3:50 p.m. to find a vacant lot currently under construction.
Empty. Should have known that Archer broad would have given us a false address.
We should go to the station, see what this Velasco guy has to say.
Well, that lady's gone cold. We're now completely dependent upon Central finding this Gene Archer for us. Before going to the Markey Printing Company, we can go back to Central to interview this Velasco guy. After all, if he is somehow connected to our Harrison case, then maybe he knows Gene Archer.
Detectives, Velasco is prepped and ready in 2. Another stolen car with legit papers.
Thanks.
Turning right, we can go down the hall and open the door to interview room 2.
Crummy bastard.
James Velasco?
I want a lawyer. It's my car and I got the proof right here. Take a look for yourself.
Velasco pushes forward yet another pink slip, and like all the ones before, it looks legitimate.
The paper is real enough, Velasco, but the car isn't yours. This pink slip is a forgery.
But we notice something. The address on this pink slip is 146 North Fremont Avenue downtown. That's the address of the vacant lot we just left. The same address that was on Gene Archer's pink slip. Flipping it over, we see that the back is blank, just like with Cliff Harrison's. So according to this pink slip, which we know is a forgery, Velasco is indeed the legal owner of this car, which means we don't need to deal with an intermediary this time. But this pink slip also suggests that he couldn't have stolen the car himself. 2 different people using the same phony address, which means he's a small fry in a bigger operation. Someone else is stealing these cars, then forging legitimate-looking pink slips to give to people like Velasco here. To do what? Deliver the car? Get the car to someplace safe? Whatever the reason, we walk away suspecting that Velasco here is a stolen auto courier.
Where were you taking the car, James?
Blow it off, Greenhorn. You'll get nothing from me.
Look at this guy, wearing a face as if he's permanently constipated. He's even got his hands in his pockets as if he's flexing every muscle in order to pinch one off. Every now and then he scowls uncomfortably. His eyes dart from side to side. Now, he hasn't actually told us anything. The last thing he said was to blow it off, so we can't really doubt what he says if he hasn't said anything. However, in other versions of L.A. Noire, instead of finding the options truth, doubt, or lie, these exact same options instead say good cop, bad cop, and accuse. That's because many players found that the truth, doubt, lie selections didn't accurately depict some of the choices we had to make in the game, and this is one of those choices. We can't doubt that he's telling us the truth if he hasn't told us anything, but the bad cop label makes a lot of sense. We could try to cajole this guy to get the information we need out of him by playing the bad cop, which is what we're gonna do now.
You're a two-time loser. If you don't give me something, I'm gonna ask the DA for the maximum. You're looking at 10 years, Belasco. Kiss your youth goodbye.
I want a deal.
Keep talking and we'll see what sort of deal you're worth.
My job is to drive the cars out of state. Nevada, Arizona, sometimes New Mexico. With the paperwork they provide, it's normally a breeze.
And the penny drops. Cars stolen in L.A., provided with new and clean forged documentation, and then driven out of state, where they're more likely to be able to be sold without getting attention from the authorities. A clever racket, but we need to find out who's running it. It's clear that whomever Belasco here is working for, this Gene Archer must also likely have been working for, and we can ask him about that.
Does the name Gene Archer mean anything to you?
Nope. Never heard of her.
Ah, big mistake there, Belasco. His face has changed from one of constipation to one of abject fear. He's carefully controlling his movements, trying to be as still as possible, avoiding eye contact, while simultaneously trying not to move his eyes around too much. He is a deer frozen in headlights. He sees his destruction before him, and he's trying not to get noticed. This man is trying to conceal a lie.
You're a liar, James.
Say that again. I'm telling the truth. I don't know the broad.
But despite his best efforts, we can prove that he's lying one of two ways. First, we already noticed that Belasco's address on his pink slip is the same address on Gene Archer's pink slip. It's unlikely they both live at the same address, and of course, there's also the fact that we have visited that address, and we know that it's a vacant lot. The likelihood of two couriers having the same fake address on their pink slips, but not knowing anything about each other, is low. And this is the evidence that we can provide to James.
So that's why you both have the same address printed on your pink slips. She's a mule for these stolen vehicles, genius. Same as you.
Jesus. All right, I know her. Stupidest broad I ever met. Always cooking up crazy schemes. I don't know why those guys use her. You happy now?
Very happy. Thanks, Belasco. Now we can ask him to tell us more about this auto theft racket.
What happens to the cars once they cross over the state lines?
I don't know. I just deliver them.
And back to his senseless belligerence. We've already demonstrated to him that we know that he knows more than he likes to let on, and we've already caught him in one lie. He's playing the game, but he's losing, and he knows it. He's trying to remain as still as possible, hoping that we'll just go away and leave him alone. We don't have any proof that he's lying, but by now we have every reason to distrust his story.
Give me something, Belasco, or I'll take you back to the cells and tell the whole station you're a child molester. How long do you think you'll last?
Okay. I hear you. The cars get sold in Chicago or back east. Sometimes I bring back cars coming the other way.
That leaves the big question. If cars are stolen in LA before being driven to Chicago, they have to be stored somewhere. Maybe Belasco knows where it is.
Where do you pick up the cars, Belasco?
Warehouses. Mainly in East downtown.
That's just a bit vague for our needs. Warehouses? There are probably hundreds of warehouses in LA. East Downtown is a big place. We need him to narrow this down for us. He likely has that information, but he's keeping it from us because he doesn't want to get in trouble with his bosses. Which is why he's sitting here looking at us like a sad lost puppy saying, "Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. I just want to leave." Sorry, buddy. You can't leave until you tell us the truth.
An address, Velasco. You want my help with the DA? Cough it up, now.
A place on Industrial Street. I don't know the number. You're gonna help me out, right?
Keep talking, kid, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, James. We're gonna check if this information is worth anything.
And if it is, I need your help here, pal.
If it is, then we'll know you're a man of your word, and so will the DA.
This has been a profitable interview, but before we can go over all of this new evidence, we get stopped on our way outside.
You're Phelps, right?
Yes, I am. Look, can we do this later? I'm in the middle of it.
Ray Pinker. I'm with Technical Services. The pink slips are all real.
Yes, we know that.
There's only one company that prints them in California, the Markey Printing Company. They've confirmed that the numbers are legitimate.
You've checked them out?
Sure. They're on Aliso Street, near the corner of San Pedro. The guy I spoke to was Lightval. Gordon Lightval. Here, I wrote it down.
Thanks, Ray. This is a great lead. We'll get down there as soon as we can.
We're just walking away with all sorts of goodies. We now have the address of the Markey Printing Company and the name of the guy we need to talk to, Gordon Lightval. But as we try to leave, we get stopped again, this time by the watch commander.
Phelps, your GTA suspect, Gene Archer, spotted by a patrolman. Western Union office, 253 South Hill. Less than a minute away down the street if you run. Go! She won't hang around.
Gene Archer, and she's close by. We'll let Bukowski do the driving. I'd probably waste more time just trying to turn around than if I were to run. Turning left outside of the police station, we can cross the busy street and then turn left again on the sidewalk. We have to run the entire way, or we could miss Gene Archer and an opportunity to collect vital evidence. We race down this sidewalk and cross a street until we arrive at the Western Union office at 4:10 p.m. We see Gene Archer still standing at a window. We arrived in the nick of time.
LAPD. We'll take it from here.
God damn it. Everyone's against me. Look, just let me get my money and get out of here, okay? You look sweet. How about giving a girl a break? That could be very nice.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Miss Archer. Stefan, call for black and white.
Just my luck to get the only hair sure cop in the LAPD.
That's an interesting bit of slang I had to look up. She calls Cole a hair shirt cop, and what she's trying to say is that he's going out of his way to make his own life miserable and uncomfortable, presumably by not engaging with her flirtations. Long ago, people would weave shirts for themselves out of coarse hair, which they would then wear as an undergarment, which were extremely uncomfortable and would sometimes cause rashes, as a form of penance to punish themselves for their own wrongdoing. Her notion is that his response was one of a person who's deliberately trying to punish himself, whereas alternatively he could be open to the comfort that she could provide him. At any rate, we can ask this character all about the stolen car.
The car you sold to Coombs was stolen, Miss Archer. There won't be any money.
I handed over all the right paperwork when I sold it, Buster.
She thinks she handed over all the right paperwork, but she is the cause of her own downfall. We already know that Belasco was a car courier, which means that Jean here was also likely a car courier. She should have driven the car to Chicago. She should have driven it outside of LA like she was paid to do. But instead, she thought she could get a little extra money on the side. And so she drove it to a used car salesman and sold it to him directly. That was her big mistake. But she's too dumb to realize it. She's sitting here with this smug raised eyebrow, licking her lips every 10 seconds, thinking she's so terribly clever, and that she could easily use her feminine charms to manipulate this stuck-up flatfoot. She probably thinks that we don't already know that the documents were forged.
Can we just get this over with?
But we do know, so we can doubt that she's telling the truth.
Gene, you've blown open the whole operation because you were dumb enough to try to sell one of the cars. What do you think they're going to do to you? Give me something.
I was just doing what they do. They pay me $50 to drive the car. I made $2,000 selling it.
You made 0. And if they catch you, you're dead. Is that all your life's worth?
Look, a girl needs things. I don't see you looking out for me.
What she needs is to tell us how she knows James Belasco.
How long have you and Belasco been delivering cars?
Who is James Belasco?
Oh, all right, big mistake there. Cole never mentioned Belasco's first name, and yet she knows it. She's also betraying herself with her body language here. She was confident and smug a bit ago, but now that we've mentioned that we know her criminal associate, she's playing things a little bit more cautious, holding her cards behind her back, shifting her weight to the side, as if half her body is trying to flee, holding eye contact only briefly before her eyes flit around the scene looking for an escape route. We know she is lying, and we can prove it.
You're lying. James Belasco. I don't remember mentioning his first name, Miss Archer.
Oh, I think you did, didn't you? Well, I'm sure of it. Anyway, I don't know him.
We can prove it by either pointing at Belasco's pink slip, which has the same address as the one that we found on Archer's pink slip, or by talking about the fake address that was on both of those pink slips that we actually visited.
You aren't sharp enough to lie to me, Gene. You and James Belasco share the same address on your pink slips. We have him in a cell.
Okay, so I know the creep. The pink slips are real. The home addresses are always vacant lots. Bigelow is always boasting that the paperwork is legit and that if we stick to our stories...
And don't try and sell the car?
Yeah, that too.
So she admitted to being a stolen auto courier, she admitted to knowing Belasco, and she just accidentally dropped a brand new name, Bigelow. I wonder how he's involved. Now we need to see if she gets her cars from the same warehouse Belasco does.
Tell me where you picked up the car, Miss Archer.
Look, I can't remember. Let me go, will you? Please. What have I got to do?
This is a desperate woman. We've already caught her in a number of lies, but now we're asking her to give up the identity of the people she just tried to cheat. They've already got a reason to gun her down. We're asking her to give them another reason. We've got her cornered. The only path out that we're offering her is a path straight into a prison cell, and she knows it. She moved a little closer to Phelps, trying to use what few feminine charms she has to get him to pity her at least, and she stands as still as possible, frozen in terror, waiting for his response. But to get the truth out of her, we've got to play bad cop.
Trying my patience here, Gene. I'll have the reporters down here and have your picture in all the papers. You'll have nowhere to run.
All right already. I get the message. I pick up the cars from a guy named Bigelow. 58 Industrial Street. Big warehouse, full of goons. Now you've got what you want. Can I go? Please?
No, you sure can. We've got a car waiting outside for you.
Some career advice, Gene. Get out of crime. Marry someone boring who has money and will find you captivating.
Is this guy for real?
He takes a little getting used to, but yeah, he generally means what he says.
Ice cold, Cole. Well, we've got an address of the warehouse and a name of the guy working at the warehouse, Bigelow. But one thing we haven't solved yet is how these auto couriers are getting these legitimate-looking pink slips. So before we head to the warehouse where they're likely storing the stolen cars, we can instead head to the Markey Printing Company, the likely source of the forged pink slips.
That friendly girl, used to getting her own way.
Little did she know her feminine charms were useless against the impenetrable Cole Phelps.
She's not my type.
And what is your type, Phelps?
I'm married.
I know that, but you're not blind or dead inside, are you? Wait, scrap that second half.
I don't know. Blondes, I guess.
Hallelujah, the man is human after all. Now we're getting somewhere. Yep, I'm with you on the blondes. Brunettes are fine too, and there's nothing wrong with a good redhead. But I draw the line at gray. You know what? I might have to lift that embargo soon in the interest of maintaining a free market.
A man with high standards.
The standards are only as high as the last glass of whiskey.
At least he's honest about his standards. After that riveting conversation, we finally arrive at the Markey Printing Company at 4:30 p.m. Pinker back at Central told us that we were going to be meeting a Gordon Lightval here, and we only see one guy inside the office. This must be him.
And what can I do for you, gentlemen?
I'm a traffic detective from Central Division. Who's in charge here?
I am, Gordon Lightfall. What's this about?
We understand that your company prints California vehicle titles.
Yes, I have the government contract to print pink slips. I've done for some years.
Have you had any goods or equipment stolen recently? We're running up against stolen cars with seemingly legitimate paperwork.
Not recently. Have you ruled out forgery? There's no shortage of talented artists in this town.
We'll keep it in mind.
There was a slight pause there when he answered us, and he immediately tried to point us down another trail of forgery. That's either extremely thoughtful and helpful, or he's trying to hide something.
We have some questions for you, Mr. Lightfall.
Maybe he knows more about this theft racket than he leads on.
Mr. Lightfall, we're currently working 2 auto theft cases. Do you know anything about a car theft ring?
Certainly not. Why would I get mixed up in a thing like that?
Oh, I don't know. For the same reasons anyone gets involved in a theft ring. Money. And he's giving away his guilt with his posture. Look how he's standing. Rigid like a board with his hands at his side. He's fidgeting only slightly. What's moving much more often are his eyes. Open eyes, closed eyes, squinting eyes, looking off to the left, looking off to the right, making eye contact briefly before looking down again.
Listen, I'm busy. You know where the door is.
And he's unnecessarily hostile. A dead giveaway. We don't have any evidence that he's lying, but he's giving us plenty of reasons to doubt that he's telling the truth.
We have suspects with legitimate pink slips that were printed here, Lightfall. You better give me something before I bring the whole department down here.
Don't be hysterical, detective. As a matter of fact, we had a similar problem a couple of years ago. A number of used car lots were selling blank documents to a criminal organization.
And suddenly his memory works. What a wonder. But he told us that car lots were selling blank documents to a criminal organization. Well, if he knows about the organization, maybe he knows their members.
Do the names Cliff Harrison and James Belasco mean anything to you?
No, they do not.
Again, he stands with his arms rigid at his sides in an uncomfortable pose. But he's doing a lot more fidgeting, leaning back and forth, and his eyes, instead of going up and down, are now going left and right, and he's squinting more. We don't have evidence that he's telling a lie right now, so instead we'll doubt his story.
Harrison bought his car from Coombs. The pink slip looks good, and that points the finger here. Do you have any employee trouble?
No, I don't. They've all been carefully screened. Look, now that I think about it, the name Coombs sounds familiar. I think they may have been involved in stolen documents in the past.
It's a really strange response. We asked him about Belasco and Archer, not about Coombs. Cole then mentioned Coombs while explaining his reasoning for asking the question, and then Lightfall responds by saying, well, now that I have a chance to think about it, I do remember the name Coombs, a name which we never asked him about. And he keeps on trying to point the finger of blame at the car dealerships, saying that they have been working with stolen documents and they have been working with crime organizations. He's doing an awful lot of deflecting. If he does recognize the name Coombs, then maybe we'll find it on his pink slip delivery ledger.
Do you have a delivery ledger, Mr. Lightfall? We would like to cross-check against the Coombs Automotive Emporium.
It's a little out of the ordinary, Detective. I'm not sure I can share those sorts of records.
And here we have a simple case of stubborn refusal to cooperate. And the look on his face is pitiful. It's like the face of a kid who has just been asked to give away his last teddy bear. We are getting close to the heart of whatever is going on here. But instead of being sensitive and letting him avoid our scrutiny, we can instead push forward by being a bad cop.
Hand it over, Lightfall. You don't want us having bad thoughts about you, do you?
Very well, but this really is irregular. Over here.
He waves us on over to the other side of his desk. Here we find the Markey Printing Company delivery ledger.
Look for patterns, recurring names, unusual addresses, anything out of the ordinary.
We're looking for repetitions here, going down the list. Wait, what's that? S. Bigelow? We recognize that name. Oh, and what's that? S. Bigelow. Getting a lot of Bigelows. Moving on to page 2. Look at that, another Bigelow. Moving down just a little bit, a fourth Bigelow.
You certainly encourage repeat business, Lightval. This Mr. Bigelow is a good customer.
We recall that Bigelow is the name that Jean Archer gave us inside the Western Union. It was the name of the person she said was at the warehouse storing the stolen cars. Turning the page, we find even more entries for Bigelow, and we see that each shipment goes to 58 Industrial Street. We remember that during our interview with James Belasco, he said that the warehouse was on Industrial Street. His account is corroborated by these entries, and it's the same address that Jean Archer gave us. We now have concrete evidence that Lightval here was shipping official pink slips that he obtained from a government contract to a warehouse where we know Bigelow was storing stolen cars. But we don't have any evidence that Lightval knows what's going on at 58 Industrial.
Sorry to bother you, sir. We'll let you know if there are any developments.
He could get out of this by simply saying, I just fulfilled the order. I'm not a police officer. It's not my responsibility to make sure my customers are not car thieves. What we need now is evidence that Lightval was knowingly shipping these pink slips to a car theft ring, and we will likely only find that evidence at 58 Industrial. We arrive at 4:38 p.m. Cole and Bukowski draw their guns.
We should call for a couple of black and whites. Get Fleischer down here.
I thought you Marines were gung-ho, Cole. You have a 45. Don't you ever want to use it? I'll take the back. Just give me a few seconds to get around there.
Cole creeps up to the doorway. Bukowski quickly runs across the doorway, races down the alley, and heads to the back door. Then, as a man of honor, Cole announces his arrival.
Cole Phelps, LAPD. All of you are coming downtown with me.
Yes, it gives them the opportunity to shoot first, but at least now Cole can say that he's not a murderer. He opened fire in self-defense. And what a self-defense! After exchanging shots with one of the thugs, the entire warehouse opens up in gunfire. Cole takes down 4 before we see any sign of Bukowski. Then Bukowski moves from the back door and hides behind some crates. He provides covering fire while we race upstairs.
I need cover!
But we missed one. There was one more on the ground floor, and he's now giving Bukowski a tough time. Bukowski races up the stairs, and we can run to our partner to provide help. Oh, but Bukowski didn't need our help. With the room clear, we can turn around and confront the man in the office with his arms raised. This is likely Bigelow.
All right, don't shoot! Keep your hands up. Watch him, Bukowski. He doesn't move until I've tossed this place.
While Bukowski watches Bigelow, we can inspect his office. Turning to the left, we find a delivery note.
Markey Printing Company. There's nothing like going direct to the source.
This is a delivery note for the pink slips, and importantly, it's signed by Gordon Lightval. On the table next to this, we find betting slips with Lightval's name on it.
Betting slip. Looks like Mr. Lightval has been on a losing streak.
Santa Anita Park, and they each say lose. So Lightval is a gambler. But why would Lightval's betting slips be in Bigelow's warehouse? And it's not just this one, there's a stack of them. The only conclusion we can make is that Bigelow is using these betting slips as a way to blackmail Lightval. If he doesn't get what he wants, he'll tell the world about Lightval's gambling. Moving to the other side of the room, we can examine Bigelow's desk to find an entire box of pink slips straight from Markey Printing.
There are enough slips here to keep them stealing cars till Christmas.
With all of this evidence, we can now interview Bigelow.
We've got a trail of pink slips and stolen cars that leads right to your door, Bigelow. You're in this up to your neck, but I don't think you're the man in charge. Make it easier on yourself. Give him up.
I do work on cars for customers. You charge in here shooting up the place like it's the Ballad of Bulge. I can't give you anything.
Okay, so after his thugs open fire on us, he's gonna sit here and cop the honest repairman routine? All right, we'll play a game.
We know about Markey printing. You can make this easier on yourself by giving us your man on the inside.
I sometimes repair cars and put them back on the road. I need a pink slip to resell them. There's no problem there.
Sure. And it's common for repairmen in a factory to be wielding .45s and shotguns. He's bluffing, and he knows he's not doing a good job. He's got this sucking on a lemon face. Look at the corners of his mouth. He's squinting his eyes, twisting his mouth, hoping we'll buy it. Not sure that we will. His eyes dart from side to side. This guy needs a heavy dose of bad cop.
There are at least 4 dead men in this warehouse. A couple more. Punks won't make for that much extra paperwork. We'd be doing the legal system a favor.
Okay, tough guy, I get the message. Lightfall, the guy who runs Markey. He's the big shot. He likes to spend big at the track. He owes people.
And with that, we get Bigelow's testimony that Lightfall is indeed a heavy gambler. But now we need to learn exactly why Lightfall is sending his pink slips to Bigelow.
Lightfall, the guy with no luck at the track. Tell me about him.
It's one of the guys lying over there. You're right. He has no luck.
Oh, he's right over there, huh? One of the guys we just shot. That's Lightfall? Well, this is an easy one, considering we met Lightfall and had a nice conversation with him. We know exactly what it looks like, and we know that he's not dead. But if for some reason that wasn't enough for us to realize that that was a really bad bluff, his body posture isn't doing him any favors. He's shifting his weight left foot, right foot. He's keeping eye contact, but he's furrowing his brow and wearing a scowl. We're making him very uncomfortable because he knows he's telling a lie, and it's a far-fetched one at that.
That's the best lie you can come up with, Bigelow?
Hey, would I lie to you, detective? I'm not exactly in a good position here now, am I?
We can prove his lie in one of 2 ways. We can use the note we got from Ray Pinker back at Central, which describes Gordon Lightfall as the proprietor of Markey Printing, or we can use the delivery ledger that we read at Markey Printing, which we would have only been able to access had we visited the location in person and met the flesh and blood proprietor, Gordon Lightfall.
Gordon Lightfall owns Markey Printing, a government print shop. He's losing big at the track.
He has these big government contracts. He's in hock over 20 grand. If the feds find out, contracts will be all over. Lightfall plays ball.
All right, Bigelow. The heat is off you. Play your cards right and you'll be able to count your time in Quentin on one hand.
And so the puzzle is finally coming together. Gordon Lightfall's business depends on government contracts. But Gordon likes to gamble, and so he gets in with a bunch of seedy guys. Seedy guys who like to steal cars, and he gambles with them, but he loses. And so the only way to pay these bills is to give these car thieves the very pink slips that the government has contracted him to print for legitimate car dealerships. If he doesn't, they will expose his gambling, and the government will likely choose not to do business with a reckless gambler, which means he would lose the contract and the source of his income.
What a mess. Gonna take some cleaning up, that's for sure. I wish it hadn't gone that way.
Well, we shouldn't bring guns to work with them. We didn't have a lot of choice.
You have to admire the barefaced cheek of someone who tries to blow your brains out one minute and pleads innocence the next.
Yeah, especially when he's surrounded by evidence. But guys like Bigelow spend so much time convincing themselves that they're not doing anything wrong that they actually start to believe their own bullshit.
They get sloppy. Bigelow, Lightfall, all of them. If they hadn't, who knows how long they could have kept this racket going.
Complacency or greed. It's always one of the two that brings them down.
We arrive at Markey Printing at 4:45 p.m. We see that Lightfall is still in the office.
You're under arrest.
You again? This harassment is starting to wear thin.
We could grab and bag him, but things will go much more smoothly if we convince him to come peacefully. We can talk with him about his deliveries to 58 Industrial Street.
We found a box of pink slips in a warehouse full of hot cars. You signed for them, Lightball.
I signed for all the orders and deliveries. You'll need something better than that, cowboy.
Here is another incident where the label good cop, bad cop, and accuse would make more sense. He's not lying when he says that he signs for all the orders and deliveries, so we're not trying to accuse him of a lie. Instead, right now, we need to accuse him of a crime.
Save it, Lightball. We already have all we need to send you down.
I've had enough of this. You either produce some shred of proof, or I call my attorney.
We can accuse him of this crime by pointing to his betting slips as evidence, or by using the testimony about Lightfall's gambling debts that we got from Bigelow. These debts give Lightfall motive for agreeing to hand over the pink slips to Bigelow, and the fact that the betting slips were in Bigelow's office gives us evidence that Bigelow knew about his gambling and was likely using it as leverage to get the pink slips that he needed.
You're in the hole with the organization. We know about the debts, Lightball.
I agree. I have a small problem. I'm prepared to help you in any way I can, Detective. I'll name names. I need you to keep this out of the paper. You
need to shut up now, Lightball. Gordon Lightball, I'm charging you with conspiracy and fraud. Hands behind your back.
The LAPD Central Traffic Division has today smashed a nationwide auto theft ring, writes crime correspondent, blah, blah, blah. Oh, here it is. Traffic squad detectives confronted a large group of armed thugs. After an exchange of gunfire, more than a dozen dead criminals were removed from the scene. The LAPD sustained no casualties. Damn fine work, Phelps. Now get out there and nail some more bad guys, will you? I want to finish reading this.
With that, we put an end to the theft racket and cause Lightfall, Bigelow, and all of their cronies to go out of their way to betray each other in hopes of a better deal. Let me know your thoughts about this case in the comments section below. This is episode 5 of my LA Noire series, and we are almost done with the traffic desk. We are slowly but surely working through every case in the game. I have a brand new shirt in the shop. At least I have my Thump Thump. This design was a fan request. We had a lot of fun learning about Caesar's Legion, and the grenade rifle Thump Thump helped us get through it. You can find the shirt in a variety of both men's and women's sizes and in a wide array of colors. The design also comes on other products as well. Smartphone cases, mugs, pillows, posters, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning with a brand new video.